slower, but we can still be dangerous. This is a Q&A. I've been planning on doing this for a while. You've asked me questions over and over again, and I've never really done this, but I put together the 5 most common questions that I've received in the last couple years about self-defense for people specifically over 50. And so this is self-defense Q&A for the real world. That means the world that we're living in. And the first question is, what's the best self-defense technique for someone over 50 who isn't in great shape? And that is going to include a lot of us, because as we get older, sometimes we get injured, our bodies break down, we lose speed, we lose strength, but we still need to be able to protect ourselves and protect our families. So over 50, not in the best shape anymore. What you have to shift your mind and your thinking to, and this is something that I've done professionally for a long time now, is you have to go into the concept of principle-based self-defense over technique-based. And so principle-based self-defense are rules that you live by or defend yourself by that are based on what's going to work, what's practical, what's been tried and true, instead of just being focused on a set of techniques from boxing or a set of techniques from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or a set of techniques from Filipino martial arts. That doesn't mean that those things aren't good and aren't valuable. All the self-defense that you can learn technique-wise, strikes, grappling, blocks, those can all be very effective if you have the right principles set up. So if you're over 50, you're not in the best shape anymore, the first and most important principle is going to be situational awareness. Now that's true for any age, but being able to see it before it happens and get out of there. But the second, when you have lost your speed, lost your power, maybe not as strong anymore, not as stable on your feet, not able to generate a lot of power anymore because you've lost muscle mass or you've had an injury that limits your movement, you want to go to the idea of what can you remove or destroy. And this comes from Tim Larkin's book, When Violence is the Answer. And I did put a link in the description, because if you haven't read it and you're over 50 or you're serious at any age, you're serious about self-defense and what works, women against a stronger man, multiple attackers, criminal, career criminals, that's what I'm thinking of, mentally ill criminals. If you're worried about any of that, you have to start to think about the principles that Tim talks about in this book, When Violence is the Answer. And this idea of what's called target acquisition. And the basic question is, what can you remove or destroy? His ability to see, breathe temporarily, permanently, his ability to be awake. Maybe you knock him out, hit him in the head so hard, or hit him in the jaw, hit him in the neck, and cause him to go unconscious, then he can't continue to attack you or hurt you, even if he's bigger, younger, stronger, even if there's more than one attacker. When you start to shift to that basic principle instead of thinking about techniques, but first think about what can you remove or destroy, and take a deep breath, ask yourself the question, and you're going to see the answer right away. If it says eyes, you're going to go for the eyes. You can use things like a finger gouge. You can be older, not as fast, not as strong, but you can stick your fingers in somebody's eyes, and it doesn't matter how big and fast and strong they are, you can still remove his eye out of his face or push it back in or scratch his cornea, and by using the same amount of pressure that he would use against you. So it doesn't matter if he's bigger, stronger, faster. You can strike the throat with your hand, with your forearm. It's very effective, very powerful, and his cartilage in his neck is going to collapse, and he's going to asphyxiate and die. And that will collapse into the same amount of pressure that yours would. So he can be bigger, younger, stronger. There can be multiple attackers. If you shift to this first principle of what can you remove or destroy using violence against violence, which is the title of Tim's books, When Violence is the Answer, and shift your mind, instead of making it like a competition or a boxing match or a jiu-jitsu match or a wrestling, and you have to be stronger, faster, better, more training, more experience. Throw that all out the window. That's gone for us now. As we get older, we've lost that. So we have to shift into being smarter and using our life experience and our understanding of the way the world works. And violence against violence is that basic idea that's going to save your life when you're over 50 and you're not as strong as you used to be, not as fast as you used to be. I'm seeing guys pop in the chat. If you have any extra questions, I'm doing 5. Go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll try to get to them at the end if we have time. Welcome to everybody. Thanks for being here. So the second question is, are weapons like canes and walking sticks effective for self-defense, and are they legal? And if you've watched me at all, and I'm assuming that some of you have, some of you haven't, you know that I love a good walking cane or a good walking stick for self-defense. So the answer is extremely effective. It's a big stick, so it is a force multiplier. It leverages those things that you have naturally. You're going to hit somebody harder. It's good walking stick or cane has length, so it's going to keep somebody off of you, push them back. You might have multiple attackers. You can hit this guy, turn and hit that guy with just a little bit of training. You don't have to be a martial artist to pick up the basic techniques of how to defend yourself with a walking stick or a walking cane. And yes, they are legal to take just about anywhere and everywhere you go, especially a cane with a crook on it. And the second link in the description is the Cane Masters. They're the gold standard of self-defense canes. They're stylish, they're effective, they're basically a medical device. And the laws that protect us, especially here in the West, our medical privacy, but then also allow us to go into spaces like go to the airport, go through TSA here in the United States, go through metal detectors with a wooden cane. Because it's a medical device, they're going to allow you to take it into places you can't take one of these, or you can't take a blade, or you can't take a short stick that you would defend yourself with, or a pepper spray, or anything like that. You can't take those. You can't take brass knuckles. You can't take I'm trying to figure out what else, any other traditional weapon or self-defense tool that you might think of. Expandable baton, that's what I was thinking of. But you can take your walking cane with you wherever you go, and you can learn some very simple, basic self-defense moves using it like you would a collie or a screamer stick, or using it like a police baton. The crook especially is effective for grabbing and pulling, and for striking, having more of a striking surface. So walking canes, walking sticks, as we get older and we lose some mobility, I call it a gray man, gray woman option, because you can take it anywhere you go and it doesn't stick out. It doesn't stand out. You're not going to obviously be carrying a self-defense tool. No one's taking it from you. They're going to allow you to go into the concert, go into the onto the train, onto the into the bus stop, or onto the bus, and in a way that you wouldn't be able to almost anything else. The only other thing that I would say would be similar to that and very effective would be a really good umbrella, a long umbrella, like a good golfing umbrella, golfer's umbrella. And you can get those. There's a brand called Uzi, like the machine gun, on like Amazon, that you can get. I used it this morning. It's raining here a lot. I gave it to my daughter to walk into class, but it's extremely effective. And again, gray man, gray woman option. You don't stand out carrying an umbrella, especially if the weather's like it is here today, rainy and wet. You have an umbrella, you have a big stick, lots of leverage, lots of ways to use it for self-defense. All right, third question. How do I stay situationally aware? So that's the first principle of self-defense, is situational awareness. That means paying attention to what's happening around you while it's happening. So, before you get out of your car, I'm in the car right now, I would look immediately at, as far as, everywhere I can, circle around the car, 5 yards, right? Look 15 feet, trying to see, is there anybody hiding behind that car, behind this car? Is there someone behind a bush that's going to pop out and try to take my car from me, or take something from me, like my life, hurt my children, hurt my grandchildren, something like that. So situational awareness is just paying attention, not being on your phone all the time and missing the opportunity to run, hide, fight, get out of there when you can. But not being paranoid. So that's the question. People want to be situationally aware, but they don't want to be worried all the time and assuming all the time that they're going to be attacked. Because the fact is, you're not. You're less likely to be attacked, depending on where you live. You might live in an area where it's more common, but a lot of us live in places where it's mostly super safe, and then it's just a random person, or you're out at the wrong time. I was talking to one of the police officers I work with every day this morning, and we were talking about a certain popular spot that kids like to go to, but after 10 o'clock, it turns into an extremely dangerous place. And so it's like, get your kids out of there before it gets too late. Or if you have to go pick them up after 10 or 11, make sure you're paying attention, because in that parking lot. So there are places where we can be more aware and mitigate the threat. But to not be paranoid all the time, I like to think of it as like defensive driving, right? Defensive driving, you become in a state of heightened awareness. You're paying attention all the time. And if you think of situational awareness in the same way, when you're at your house, you don't have to have the same level of situational awareness as if you're at, coming out of work late at night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, or you take your wife or your husband on a date, or significant other on a date, and you want to try a new restaurant and happens to be in a little bit rougher part of town, which we do all the time. Then you increase your situational awareness, you increase your focus and what's happening around you, and then you can let it subside and turn back down. So it's a matter of being able to not compartmentalize, but be able to categorize where you are, whether you should be paying more attention or not, and then keep your eyes up. A lot of people try to do situational awareness, but they're withdrawn and they're looking down, and then everything is amplified because they're not seeing the horizon. So as soon as you look up and you see the horizon, that's going to change your whole level of situational awareness anyway. You're going to see it before it comes, and it's going to reduce emotionally the fear. People don't always understand. This is something, if you see somebody who has low self-esteem and they walk like this and they're always looking down, then all of the fears in your head will amplify, and you'll create stories and situations that don't really exist. And it's like if somebody's hand comes up and you look down and you're just waiting, then that fear grows. And I always say, time feeds fear. Time always feeds fear. So time feeds fear, so the opposite of that is take immediate action. Take immediate action, it'll kill the fear, right? But if you delay something, delay telling the truth, delay taking care of your finances, whatever it is, then you're going to grow that fear of what might happen. But if you immediately take some action, take a step in the right direction, then the fear goes away and it doesn't have time to grow. So the same is true about situational awareness. If you're always looking down and everything around you is amplified, as soon as you look up and you start to look around, you'll start to realize things aren't as bad as you thought they were, or not as bad as they thought they were going to become. All right, number 4. What should I do if someone tries to break into my home while I'm there? Now this one is, it's a little bit easier because you can plan for what would happen if that, you can be proactive is the point. So you can work on improving the locks, especially on the doors. A lot of door frames, when they put them in, they have the hinges, and they put in really short screws into those, so they're easily kicked in. And the lock is the same thing. You might have a deadbolt, but it might be a really short deadbolt, and it's easy to just kick your door in. And so there are simple, super inexpensive things that you can do. Longer screws in the hinges, a little bit longer bolt. You can buy a better bolt. You can buy a second door lock. You can buy something. I have bars in the house that go between the door, under the door handle, and into the floor that keep it, no one can kick it in. So there's things that you can do to prepare your house. There are locks that you can get for the windows. We have locks on all our windows that are not just the flip locks on the top of the window as it opens, because those can be easily defeated, but they actually have a piece that screws in. You can still get them out if there's a fire, but it keeps it from coming open and somebody getting into your house that way. Then inside the house, you can pre-position your self-defense tools, and you can have everything. I have a shotgun, I have a long gun, I have multiple handguns in my house for self-defense. Nobody's coming into my self-defense. Vladimir, I'll answer your question here in a second, but thinking about your house in a way, like just going through a mental checklist of what if somebody were to come in the door, whether or not you have a gun. You don't have to have guns if you don't believe in them, or they're not available where you live. A lot of places around the world, you can't have them at all. There are other self-defense tools. You can have your self-defense cane. Those are extremely effective inside the house. There are other self-defense tools that you can have inside the house. But thinking about, like, what would happen if someone comes to the front door? What would happen if someone comes to the back door? Where are you going to go? Who else is in the house with you that you need to bring with you to that safe place? What does your safe place look like? How can you stay away from this person? What can you put between you and that person while you call for help? If you're able to call 911 or whatever the number is in your country, and able to get the police department to come or somebody else to come and help you. So if you start to map it out in your head, what would happen? And by the way, if you do use a gun for self-defense inside your home, make sure you go through and you know your zones of fire. You don't be shooting through a wall and then hit somebody you love because the bullet's going the wrong place and you're just reacting to somebody coming in the house. Make sure you know what are called zones of fire, know where it's safe to what we would call hard point yourself and your family. That means take up a position where your back is protected and you have your family behind you, and then anything coming through that door you're going to address with your self-defense tool. So if it's a violent home invasion, having some tools is very important. You can harden your having cameras outside, lighting the outside of your house, or if you live in an apartment, lighting the front of the apartment, the back of the apartment, the doors, putting in extra lights so that it's really bright. That deters. Having a dog is probably the number one, especially here in the United States, it's the number one self-defense tool that you could possibly get. Even a medium-sized dog that's barking all the time, that will deter 90% of people who are going to try to come into your home. They don't want a dog to alert the police that there's an invasion, and most criminals, they don't want to get bit by that dog, and they might have an irrational fear of the dog, which is good for you, or a rational fear. You can get the kind of guard dog that will tear them up if they come into your house. So a dog, consider having a dog. All right, the fifth question: is it ever worth fighting back if I'm outnumbered or surprised? So in other words, if it's multiple attackers, it's a bigger person. Hey Blinks, it's good to see you. Blinks is in Nova Scotia. Should you fight back if you are outnumbered, outpowered, surprised, caught off guard? And it really depends on whether you feel like it's a life or death situation. If you're going to get killed or brutally beaten or brutally injured, either way, then you should always fight back. It's just like any kind of other self-defense that I've taught for my entire life. You're going to get hit anyway. You might as well fight back. Now, if it's a robbery and they want your stuff, give them your stuff. Don't lose your life over your money. Don't lose your life over your jewelry. Don't lose your life over your phone. God, please. You can easily get a new phone. But people sometimes they panic and they haven't thought it out, and so they'll fight back over stuff. And all that stuff is always replaceable. Your health and your life are not replaceable. The health and life of your family is not replaceable. But if it's a life-death situation, life or death, and you're going to be injured no matter what you do, you might as well fight back, because you can use the principles from the first question. Violence against violence. Take out his eyes, take out his nose, crush his windpipe. You don't have to be bigger, younger, stronger, faster. You can be slower, we can be less powerful, but we can still be dangerous. And that whole principle goes back, and I don't care how old you are and how limited you are in your movement, you can still take somebody's eye out, you can still crush a windpipe if that's your target and that's what you've decided to do when you defend yourself. He's coming at you or he's caught you off guard, you're starting to get smashed and pounded, you're probably going to lose your life or be seriously injured, then you might as well fight back. If you can get out of there, get out of there. If you can run away, run away. If you're practicing situational awareness from the earlier question and you see it coming and you don't feel comfortable going that way, don't go that way. Delay, that means wait, let them move, or go around, or go a different way. Don't create fights that don't need to happen. There's a grumpy old person in my neighborhood who we've had some words with in the past, and it's better when I see that person just to avoid him. I'll go the other way, even though, he's the guy he's wrong, I'm right. That doesn't matter. You can be dead wrong or you can be dead right, and it's not worth it. Especially these days when so many people are so emotionally stressed because of what's happening in the world, in the economy, in culture, in politics, and people amp themselves up. Some people consume negative news all day long, and they're always angry and they're always PO'd, and they're always ready to fight. And then, someone cuts them off in traffic, or someone looks at them wrong at the store, and then they create a problem that didn't have to exist. They react to something in a very negative way, and it escalates very quickly, and then one person's dead, two people are dead. One is, the one guy's going to jail for the rest of his life. He's going to lose all of his money because the other family is going to sue him because they took the level. I mean, all these things happen daily, every day that's happening. It's very common. So learning how to breathe, how to pay attention to what's happening around you, how to pull yourself out of situations, how to let things go, how to have, be the bigger man, the bigger woman. And that stuff is all extremely important. But question number 5 is, if you don't have any other choice and The fight is upon you. Should you fight back? And my answer is absolutely. You should fight back. If it's life or death and you're going to get injured either way, then defend yourself. All right, Bill, good to see you. Bink says, yes, be prepared to defend yourself. Your brain is always your strongest weapon. Amen to that. People always say, fighting is 90% mental. I've been in a lot of fights. they're 90% physical, but the mental part is extremely important, which is why that saying is fighting is 90% mental. I think fighting is probably 99% physical, but the point is, you use your brain. And when it comes to, and this is what we're talking about, really isn't fighting. It's not like a competition fight. It's not like a street fight. This is life or death. This is, you're getting older. We're living in a world that's less and less safe. We recognize that we're older and slower, but we still want to be dangerous, which is why we had this self-defense Q&A for the real world. Now, I saw a couple questions come through. If you have questions, I'll try to answer them real quick. But one of the questions was on the video I made yesterday, which was about the Indian clubs, which will give you greater strength as we get older, greater mobility. That'll bring back some of your hand speed. So I know that question wasn't in here, but you can improve. Even if you're older and slower, you can still be dangerous because you can get some of that speed back. You can get some of that flexibility back, some of that power back. Something simple like kettlebells or the battle ropes or the Indian swinging clubs. And I recommend starting with like 1 pound for at least 3 to 4 months and then move up to a heavier weight. Don't go too heavy too soon, you'll injure yourself. All right, so you guys have been great. Philotham Puspanthon, I'm not sure if I said that, but thank you for being here. Thank you for your comment. I'll see you guys on the next one.